I'm very happy that Olivier Rod is with us today to talk about his career path. So Olivier, whenever you want, you can start.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much, Noémie, and I'm also very happy to be here. It's very flattering to be asked to participate to such an event. It's also a sign that you became an old guy, maybe, but that you have to live with. So I think I prepared some slides to try to show you a little bit what I'm doing today, what is my work, and also how I came there, what happened during my my career to come there. So I start showing this to you, and then of course I would be happy to have a discussion about whatever you are wondering about. And I think just feel free to ask questions during the presentation also. I'm not sure if I see hands, if you raise them, but maybe Noémie, you can take care of this then.
I will.
So I will try to share my presentation. Can you see it now?
Yes.
Perfect. As you said, Noémie, my name is Olivier Rod, and I'm working in Sweden at RISE, which is the abbreviation for Research Institute of Sweden. RISE is a large state-owned institute in Sweden with around 3,000 employees and working with many different aspects. And one of the topics we are working with is corrosion. And we are around 110 people within RISE working with corrosion. Half of them in Sweden. And the special thing is that half of the group is in France. It's a fully owned subsidiary, the French Corrosion Institute, and a small part called MECM. I will come back to this. So it's looking at the corrosion part. If you look at the corrosion world, it's quite a big group anyway, working with corrosion, and you see a little bit what we are doing here. If you look at the right-hand side, you can see that we are located at two different sites in Sweden, in Stockholm, on the east coast of Sweden, where we are working with automotive, with surface analysis, infrastructure, battery and electrolyzers, and in Borås, which is close to Gothenburg on the west coast of Sweden, where we have focus about seawater, corrosion, anti-fouling, and also many kinds of testing. And then we have the French part, the French Corrosion Institute, with 3 locations in Brest, which is also the largest part in France, with, of course, as it's located very close to the sea, seawater corrosion, but also transport, building, soils, and quite important activities related to corrosion sensors and artificial intelligence. We have Saint-Étienne, working with hydrogen, carbon capture, nuclear, oil and gas, also very energy topics, can we say. Traditionally very large focus on oil and gas, but now switching more and more to other types of energy related questions related to hydrogen, carbon capture, and so on. And then we have Lyon, which is the last part of who joined the group, company MECM, Material Engineering Corrosion Monitoring, with large focus on the chemical industry and industrial plant support. And I have the chance to be responsible for this group, which is a fantastic job, I think, with really extremely skilled people and the opportunity to work in many different fields. So just to show you a little bit, we went through this on the previous slides also, but you see that it's really very broad spectra of different field within corrosion, from vehicle and atmospheric corrosion infrastructure, more research oriented topics, more testing and direct industrial support oriented. And I think that's a fantastic way to have a very broad activity within corrosion, and I have a chance to be involved in many of these different parts. A couple of examples of how we are working. This is related to the atmospheric and automotive corrosion, where we really try to combine different parts from accelerated testing in laboratory, you see on the right-hand side, atmospheric testing, weathering, aggressive gases, accreditation, and really the accelerated testing. Correlate this with the field testing, where we have quite large facilities, both our own field testing station, but also worldwide different stations that we have access to, and even mobile on vehicle testing, and then use advanced characterization analysis possibilities for surface analysis and understand the phenomena, and then of course to try to use as much as possible modeling and sensors and even artificial intelligence to understand the data. So since last year we have in Brest an AI developer which has really this in focus, and that's really interesting to see what we can obtain using this. And you see this is related to that the atmospheric corrosion sites that either we own or that we have access to, which makes really an interesting covering of different places worldwide. And similar for the seawater, you see also we have two marine stations. We also have the possibility to make exposure in deep sea down to 2,000-3,000 meters. We have developed line for this, and then we have relation with many stations around the world to be able to make exposure. And that's really the interesting part with corrosion. I think also that you have this need to relate laboratory testing with exposure in the environment. And the last slide that I wanted to show about our activities, it's the work which is done at MECM, which is a small company in Lyon who joined our group last year. It's 5-6 persons which are working with industrial corrosion assessment. So it's really very applied work on a scientific basis, with inspection of industrial plants, support for the choice of material, support to understand the corrosion mechanisms and to improve it, and really based on improving the chemical unit's reliability. And I think it's an extremely interesting way of working also that we try to use in different parts of our department. So that was a little bit briefly what I'm doing today and what we are doing in the department, and now I thought about telling you a little bit how I came there. How do you have such this kind of job in Sweden when you are a Swiss guy from Lausanne and the path there, and sometimes you can think that you have a very straight career path. Mine is definitely not so, and I think in many cases it is not so. So just to show a little bit what happened. I made my studies in Lausanne at the EPFL between 1991 and 96 within material science, and there we were studying quite broadly all the topics related to material science. So it was metallic materials, ceramics, polymer and composites, 3D, concrete, very broad, and of course also a part related to corrosion. We had Professor Landolt for corrosion, which was a very skilled person, and if you are French speaking, it's a very good book about corrosion that he wrote, the basis of corrosion, so I can recommend it. Then in 96, I did my diploma work at KTH in Sweden. And the reason for that is that I had a Swedish professor in composite technology, Jan-Anders Månsson, who was very interesting, and I really wanted to do something abroad. So I asked him if he could fix diploma work for me, which he did. And it was about in-plant recycling of glass fiber reinforced polyamide. So not very close to the corrosion area, as you can see. And after that, I moved 1 year to Japan between 96 and 97. It was a training which was also organized by the EPFL in Lausanne, where eight engineers were sent to Japan to learn the language a little bit and then make a practice in a company. And I was in Japan Steelworks in Hiroshima, which is a company working, among others, with plastic injection molding, producing machines for that. So I was making optimization of the machine parameters in order for the clients in order to get the right properties of the injection of the pieces injected. So. And that was a very interesting experience. After that, I moved back to Sweden and tried to find work there. And the reason to move back to Sweden is completely personal. It's because my wife is Swedish. So when I did my diploma work, I met somebody there and wanted to go back. So you see, not really a professional reason. And I was employed by the Swedish Metal Research Institute in end of 97 and starting to work there within the field of soldering in electronics. And it was by the time where there was still leaded solder which was used, and it was transition to lead-free solder. So it was a lot of work done with this, both regarding mechanical properties but also corrosion properties. So it was quite broad, and I was working with a lot of metallography and different testing of these solder joints. Then I took a little break between 2001 and 2003. I've been dreaming about making photography for quite many years, and I thought, well, if I want to do it a little more, it's now. So I took 2 years on leave and did a school of photography in Stockholm, and that was really very interesting, and it gave me a lot. But then I realized anyway that I wanted to work as an engineer. That was my thing. So after these 2 years, I came back to the company in 2004, who had the time to change name since then and to merge with the Swedish Corrosion Institute, and was called Sverige Kimab. And I worked during some years with metal processing, microstructure analysis, a lot of microstructure analysis related to different kind of steels, aluminium, copper alloys, brazing also. I made a lot of work related to brazing of aluminium, for example, for heat exchangers. And from 2006, I worked more and more with different kinds of consultancy and failure analysis and material choice support, with relatively large part, which was of course related to corrosion aspects also. And 2008, it was a small reorganization in the company, and I got a role as manager of what was the consultancy department at that time. And there it was half related to different kind of failures, not necessarily related to corrosion, and half related to corrosion aspects, I think. And at that time, I started to work quite a lot also with what has been a specialty for me, which is brass and copper alloys, with a lot of focus on corrosion aspects. Then in 2013, in addition to consultancy, I got also responsibility for what was called sales development at Sverige Kimab, including IT, quality, and this kind of aspects. And it was very interesting to learn more about this, to understand more about how different aspects and the purely technical one in the company are working. In 2016, we completely reorganized Sverige Kimab, and then I got the responsibility of department manager for the corrosion departments. So it's from that time that I'm only working with corrosion aspects, I would say, and with corrosion questions. And there it was, the work in the department in Sweden was mostly related to automotive, surface, process industry, some work on energy, and also infrastructure. Then in 2018, we became a part of RISE, these larger Swedish institutes. And at that time, the French Corrosion Institute, which always had been part of Sverige Kimab, became also a part of the corrosion department. So before, I was not very involved in the French Corrosion Institute, but then since 2018, it became a part of the department. I was much more involved then. And 2 years after, 2020, we had a complete reorganization within the RISE. You see, it's a lot of reorganizations here, but that's how it is in companies often. And that means that the corrosion department became a little bit larger. So a part working on the west coast of Sweden in Borås joined the department also. And then we became around 55 in Sweden. And in 2021, I became direct responsible of the French Corrosion Institute. Until then, there was a CEO in France for the French Corrosion Institute, which was Dominique Thierry, who is also the person who founded the institute. But he quitted this position in 2021. He got retired. Then he started to work a little bit for us in Sweden, but that's another story. And then I replaced him. So from this time, I get very, very involved in the French Corrosion Institute also. And the last part in 2022, we made the acquisition of this small company, MECM, in France, in Lyon, and are working together since then. So you see, it has been quite a lot of different things. Actually, I never changed work since '97, but anyway, it feels that I had many different works and did many different kind of things, and it never had time to get repetitive or boring in some way, because it has been many different challenges. So and that's led to where we are now with a part in Sweden, and then these two companies in France, the French Corrosion Institute and MECM. And I think that's really very interesting for me also to have this implication in France. You working in two countries, you see really the difference in way of working and culture between the two countries. And in France, we are working a lot also with aspects, how to develop the company, how to develop the way of working. It's different sizes in Sweden and in France. Also in Sweden, where we are part of a large institute, and in France, even if we are part of RISE also, but it's much more managed as a smaller company, which is extremely interesting to have these differences also, I think. So just some reflection about my work and how I see it. A little bit, what does my work consist in today? And you have different way to see it. This is maybe a little bit more cynical one, which is that in some way you try to keep all the stakeholders enough satisfied on a long-term basis. And I try to illustrate this here. We have different stakeholders. You have our customers and financiers, you have the external partners, it can be universities or the institute. It's the own company. You have the bosses, the board, the owners who have expectations, and then of course all the people working in the departments and a colleague from other parts of RISE. And all these different stakeholders have different expectations, which often are not fully compatible. So you will never be able to make everybody happy or 100% happy, and it's really try to find the right way, so that you can navigate in this constellation, that everybody is happy enough to keep moving in a good way. That was a little bit the more cynical way, but then you have what's, I think it's really interesting. It's that I have the chance to be able to work in defining the basis and directions of our development, and really to try to work about where are we going, how will we develop as a business, the competence, our equipment, scientific and technical level, what do we need, how do we get there, and also organization and company culture. And there we did a lot of work in France the 2 last years, till example, for example, to see, okay, how can we involve more everybody in managing the company, and how do we work together on this, and really with a lot of interesting dialogues with everybody, and that's extremely interesting, I think. And then finally, a reflection from my side also. Why do I work in a research institute? I mean, you can work in the academy, in the industry. There are many other possibilities, and I've been thinking quite a lot about this, and looking at really the reason of being of an organization like RISE. It's trying to find new solutions for a sustainable future, and really we see that our world is facing huge challenges, but that we have possibilities to address this and to work together for this. And I think corrosion is really one field where we can bring a number of solutions. There are a lot of studies showing that corrosion is costing 3-4% of the BNP of a country, but it's not only that. It's also all the effects that it has on the use of energy, on the environmental aspect, and so on. If you can mitigate corrosion in some way, it will have a large impact. And it's really, I think, what drives me, it's to try to feel that, okay, we make a difference in some way, trying to make every day to make the world a little better, even if it's only very little. But I think if we all try to make this very little, then it will be quite a lot at the end of the day. So yeah, that's really what motivates me. And I think that's my some reflection, and I already named it, but actually I never applied for a new job since '97, not externally at least, but it feels a little bit like I had 10 different jobs. So you can see that there are different career paths, and you can change companies, but there are also possibilities to make very interesting and different things within the same organization. I really had regularly new challenges, possibilities, and so on, which make that I always have been motivating and interested. And then I think in my work today, what makes it really great is the possibility to work with so many fantastic people, both in the department, but also outside the department, and that's what make one wanted to continue with this and make it really interesting. And as you can see, because that was a little bit the title of the presentation also, I'm not really a specialist in any of the topics we are working with. I think maybe except corrosion of brass, but if you look at the other topics, there will always be somebody in the department who is better than me within that topic. But I think the point for me is to know enough about many aspects in order to be able to put things together and make things going forward. And that was my last slide. No, that was the one. I had the last one. Noémie. There are often up and downs, but when it's down, I try to look at this picture and I get a little bit more happy. So I can send it to you also.
I like it.
So that was what I prepared, and I would be very happy to discuss anything with you.
Thank you. Very interesting as well to see how basically career can evolve without changing. We saw that already with Peter Visser last year, showing that how within the same company you can actually evolve and change job actually kind of easily. You don't necessarily need to move place. Other question from the audience? No, so me, I have actually some question. So I'm always puzzled by why the French Corrosion Institute is part of the Research Institute of Sweden, but apparently it's historical.
Yeah, I
The question.
I can just explain this briefly. Actually, Dominique Thierry, who founded the French Corrosion Institute, had been working for 15 years in Sweden, and he had this idea that it would be very interesting to develop the activity in France. So 2002, he got support from Sweden to build the institute in France. So that's the historical reason. Yeah.
But the question is, because I liked as well, and I liked really when I visited you, the fact that you work a lot with this consortium where basically a lot of things are discussed or put together.
Yes.
The question is, do you plan on acquiring or basically expand even more this? Like at the moment you have location in France, but do you plan on having in other European country, or how do you see, basically, how do you see the growth, or how do you see that the perspective for RISE?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. Nothing that is planned right now. But it could change. Maybe it's something different in 5 years. But right now, RISE is RISE, and large RISE is anyway a Swedish institute which is quite focused on the Swedish companies, I would say. But at the same time, corrosion has no borders really, and it's definitely a point to really have this international connection. But it can also be through cooperation. So yeah.
Yes. And what you did not mention is that now you're actually active as well in the EFC. So in the
I did not. Yeah, but I am actually, yes, I'm part of the board of the EFC, which is very nice also. Yeah.
Exactly. Yes. And so when I see your career path, you move from engineer to management. And did you do continuous formation, or basically did you learn by doing, or did you train yourself, and did you miss a lab now? Like, because you in a manager position, do you sometimes miss doing the work by yourself?
Yes, I mean, regarding the formation, it was a mix. I think we had some courses regarding management in different ways during the years, and that was very good. But then it's a lot is learning by doing anyway. Independently of how many courses you have, then you have to do it. It's a little bit like work as corrosionist also, you know. So, but then, of course, yes and no. Yeah, but sometimes I can miss a little bit the really scientific work, and I try to have some connection still, at least within the brass part, even if it's not practical in the lab, but to be involved in discussion and so on. So I try to keep a little bit of it. But I think it's also a change in some way, and I enjoy what I'm doing today, and I think it's difficult to be able to do everything also. So yeah.
Yes.
Yes, there
Bartek,
is a question.
Bartek, just unmute yourself and ask a question.
Yes, of course. Hello, Olivier. Good to see you. Very
Hello.
nice presentation. I have a question, because looking at your fantastic career and the length of working in one place, it's really amazing. But I have a tricky question for you. Now, looking back to your all the career, is there any place that you think, if there is a chance to go back and do something differently in your career, in your practical career, would you do something? Is there a place that you could do things differently in your corrosion work?
That's a tricky question. Yes, it is. Well, actually, I can not see it really in a large level. Of course, there are always a lot of small things happening when you think afterwards, I should have made it differently, but nothing that really influenced my career paths that way, I think. But at the same time, I would say I didn't have I didn't have a clue about where I wanted to be after 20 years either. It has been mostly to take opportunities and evolve in this way.
Thank you very much.
And I think maybe some people really know that I want to do that, but I was not such a people, and I tried to do things that felt right at the different times, and to see where it brings in some way.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you very much.
I think Noémie, you also sent me a written question that came before,
Yes.
related to how easy or difficult it is to really enlighten the importance of the corrosion area within companies, and I think that's a challenge that we all have. And I mean, I think the question was related to how you do it within the company, but I see in our work, how can we really chauffeur the financing authorities that corrosion is that important? How can we get large European or national projects related to corrosion? And it's quite tricky. Often corrosion is just to avoid that something will happen. It's not as sexy or fancy as to develop a new a completely new area or something like so. So I think it's tricky, and I think the EFC is very important there, writing white paper and really trying to get at the right place to explain this importance. But I don't have really a solution, and it's something we are struggling with every day, more or less, to explain that it's really important. Yeah.
I know that we play with words. We don't necessarily name it corrosion in order like to make it a bit more fancy.
Yeah,
it's not the solution though.
No, but but it's both to explain it, but also to try to integrate this in different other large initiatives in some way, and to try to find ways. But
I agree that actually as well educating people. I see that now I'm in a teaching institute, and I highlight that actually mechanical property is important, but corrosion as well, and it tends to be forgotten from the start actually. So
yeah, it's much too often that you can put a lot of money to solve the problem when it happened, but it would be much better to to take care of it before. That's what we are struggling with, to really try to explain this to people over and over again.
I agree. And if you had to give some tips to some early career engineers that want to move to a more like a managerial position, what will that be? Or how do you make the transition, like, basically?
Yeah, I think, I mean, it comes mostly comes quite naturally. I think if you start to work in a company or institute or a place like this, and show your interest in that, I mean, it's mostly make a good work. And then if there are questions about, okay, contributing to some internal development or organization and that, then be part of it. Every time you have the occasion to show that you are interested in these topics and be part of the initiatives. and then explain to your manager, okay, that's something that I'm interested in, and then eventually the opportunity will come. Then of course you can always look at opportunities in other companies or otherwise, but if it is the same company, then it's a process which will take some years.
Are there any other questions from the audience? So if not, thank you very much, Olivier.
Yeah, thank you very much, Noémie
and
and Young EFC for inviting me to this presentation also.
You're welcome. It was nice to see as well the difference, because we had Carolina last year.
Yes.
And no, actually this year, sorry, it was this year in February.
Yeah, it was in spring, yeah.
And it is nice as well to see the difference, and basically because you're working in the same place, but you have kind of a different career path, so that as well, it was very nice.
Yeah, and I think it's really, it's difficult to find two similar career paths. It's depending on so many different aspects, so. Yeah.
Exactly, it's sometimes just being at the right place at the right time, and it just kind of sometimes it's just luck.
Yeah, and I think it's quite a lot when you get the opportunity to take it.
Yeah, exactly.
And then do something of it, but it's a lot of luck or opportunities that will come, as you say, and then okay, just take it then. Yeah. Exactly.
So thank you so much. The next career webinar will be probably in January with John Scully, and followed by Jennifer Locke in February. So we will be back for more academic career paths. But we will again have as well people from research institute and industry later on this year, or basically next year. So thank you so much. Have a nice day and a good weekend, and see you next time.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.